Hello, everyone. You're all very welcome to the screening of No Data Plan by Miko Revereza, which is available to watch online from Wednesday the 27th to Friday the 29th of January. My name is David Upton. I'm the Public Programme Manager for Lux Scotland. We're delighted to collaborate with Document Human Rights Film Festival for this screening. For those who might not have gone to one of our events or screenings before, Lux Scotland is a non-profit agency dedicated to supporting, developing and promoting artist moving image practices in Scotland. We program screenings, exhibitions and events and have a professional development program called Superlux, as well as commissioning works through schemes such as Now and Next and the Margaret Taylor Award. We'd also really encourage you to join us for Forming a Residents Association, the role of video in response to the UK housing crisis, which is on this Sunday at 12 p.m. With Ed Webbingle, and it's also part of Document. So as an intro, Miko is an experimental filmmaker and undocumented immigrant. Since relocating from Manila as a child, he has lived illegally in the United States for over 25 years before moving to Mexico. This lifelong struggle with documentation, assimilation, statelessness informs his films. Miko's films have been widely screened and exhibited internationally at festivals such as the International Film Festival Rotterdam, Yamagata International Documentary Film Festival, and Berwick Film and Media Arts Festival. So Miko is going to give a little intro to No Data Plan, and then afterwards we hope you'll join us for a short Q&A.
Hey, thanks so much, David, and thanks for having me and having No Data Plan. No Data Plan is a film that I shot in 2018. It's basically a film that is contained within the 3 days which I rode the train from Los Angeles to New York. And during that time, I didn't have a data plan on my phone, so I didn't have a way to sort of occupy my time. And so I accidentally, or I wouldn't say accidentally, but I think I kind of unintentionally made this film just bored on the train, perhaps. But it became my first feature film. And the reason I rode the train instead of flying from Los Angeles to New York is because at the time, my documents for flying were expired. So I had to take the train, and it was a precarious journey. And but I am excited for you all to see it, and thanks for watching it. I hope you enjoy it.
So I guess to begin this Q&A, you kind of alluded to in the introduction that this work wasn't, I guess, intended or planned almost. Yeah, I was wondering, like, at what point did you really kind of feel, oh, I have something here, whatever's like in the can, I can make a film out of this.
Yeah. As I was saying before, I had boarded the train, and this kind of goes along with my practice of documenting or just exploring and filming what I find interesting, and not necessarily to go towards a film, but potentially to go towards a film when I have enough of a collection. So it wasn't planned that this collection, or there would be enough of a collection within these 3 days, and then it wasn't planned that I'd be filming as much as I did, but I didn't have anything else to do, and then so I felt quite compelled to use my camera more than my useless phone without data. But I didn't realize, I didn't think I had something, perhaps until towards the end of the film. The border patrol boarded the train, and as you saw, I think after that interaction with them, I noticed a sort of change in how the camera moved, or after that, it was sort of my instinct to pick up the camera again, document my mental and physical state of being on the train after that transpired. And seeing that afterwards, it was kind of like jarring for me, the sort of the camera movement, the cinematic language, as opposed to everything that I was filming prior to that. There's this sort of aesthetic of non-composure, totally destabilized and shaky. And I found that sort of one of the most interesting moments that I filmed. And if anything, like I found that is an important film. Like, oh, I should make that a film, or that has to be, I don't know. I had the desire to make that a film, but then once sitting down with the footage, yeah, I was like, oh, I have enough footage for a film here, and so yeah, it was actually quite. It wasn't easy, but then it made sense to edit it because it was chronological from west to east. So the order of shots just fit into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of, it clicked. Yeah, I was wondering, there's like this moment as well when I think one of the ticket checkers like kind of almost takes the law into her own hands as well and starts asking for IDs and saying, well, this is my law or something. There's
right. Yeah, it's typical. I mean, they always do that, and they ask for ID with your boarding pass. And I gave the ID that I gave is expired. I wonder. I don't know. They didn't.
But they just kind of raise these moments of real kind of precarity or something, or like vulnerability in your kind of position from being in this like almost, I don't know, kind of like parts of it seem really meditative and quiet, and you're almost like kind of wrapped in cotton wool and just being transported. And then there's these moments of kind of danger that kind of jerk you out of it as well. It felt like it had this real kind of like, obviously the kind of narrative text underneath as well, accompanying it. It gave it this real kind of, sense of a travelogue and a literary kind of, I don't know, like reading a book that you're not really aware of the time passing or something as well. Like were there kind of other travelogues or other books you were reading at the time that kind of informed how you wrote the narrative to accompany it, or how you structured that kind of editing?
Nothing I was reading at the time, but I think in high school, my English teacher turned me on to Jack Kerouac's On the Road.
Okay.
Which I think I was really influenced and drawn, like attracted to. And I think road movies in general are kind of one of my favorite genres.
Yeah, it felt like.
But I think it's also interesting, the sort of reverse travel of the typical is east to west type of cross-country journey, and then this one goes from west to east.
Yeah, it's kind of inverting the, I don't know, the American mythology or something like that. Like
right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's from watching Wild West movies or something, but that kind of image of the Golden Spike and the Transcontinental Railway and all that kind of stuff seems so important to the American kind of, I don't know, that idea of manifest destiny or something, or that, we own this land, whether or not we, really own it or something. But it did seem like this kind of interesting reflection on that kind of colonial construction of identity or something as well. Maybe, I don't know.
Totally, that's really interesting.
like those works, those kind of, I guess, classic literary American road journeys are all the car and it's the individual, and the train never really kind of took off in the same way. I mean, I know it doesn't have the same bad reputation that the Greyhound bus does or something, but it's still, yeah, it's not the, I don't know, it's not the mode of transport that I guess captures the American dream in the same way as the car anymore or something.
Right, right. No, I also took the Greyhound across the country when I was 18 years old, for the same reasons, back and forth. And that was, yeah, that sucked. But
There's
these
no more
were
to be said about that.
Yeah, I mean, the train also sucked, but I don't, yeah, you saw it, you saw it. But yeah, no, it's interesting, the train as opposed to the car, and this sort of eastward migration. And also, I think I just remembering right now, thinking about all of the thoughts about the train tracks that I had on the train. The sort of the migrant labor of Chinese and Asian immigrants that built the train, and sort of that part of the lineage of Asian Americans in California, leading to my family's own migration to California. So it's interesting, the sort of relation of going, starting in California to go to New York, and the infrastructure laid for that. And I was also thinking about sort of the development of cinema in relation to the development of transportation and the train tracks. And it was a meditative experience to think about the film projector or the film strip sort of resembling train tracks also.
Yeah.
And their function of engage, like the gears that are engaged are sort of similar. And this relationship of footage and yeah, the train tracks and footage, or film, and as a distance measurement that measures by feet. Yeah, so then I had a lot of these thoughts of in relation to cinema, just being on the train.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, also, I guess just to mention your kind of earlier work, Droga was shot on 16mm film, wasn't it? Yeah, we've been able to screen that once or twice in the past few years. Oh, Super 8, okay.
Yeah, but I have another film called Distancing that's shot on 16.
Okay.
And I just bought some cans of 16 3G films. So I'm excited to shoot more 16. Actually.
Yeah, and it seems like with those earlier works on this one, it's also kind of like an experimentation with the material of what you're with whether it's phone footage or whether it's the digital or analog. Yeah, I guess because your work seems to sit, or at least it's contextualized primarily in kind of that documentary kind of mode, but I mean, your work is also like really experimental and really kind of blends that kind of like an artist's moving image practice with the documentary moving image practice. Be interesting to hear you maybe speak about how you kind of define where it sits, or if it needs to be defined at all.
No, I think I come from a sort of more of an experimental background, I suppose, or I would, I when I first started making moving images, it was definitely through experimental, and I think that it was a sort of category that allowed me some freedom that wasn't so defined by tradition. In fact, it would counter tradition And then so I found that it was liberating for me in a sense that my life as an undocumented immigrant in this
Oh, sorry, I think the screen froze a little bit there. Would you mind repeating some of that,
let's
Miko?
go through okay. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, I found the it's not, is it good or
I can hear your audio, but the screen is still a little bit frozen.
okay.
I think it's getting better now.
All right.
There we go.
Okay. Uh, so I found that experimental film is not bound by the rules of tradition. In fact, it would work towards unraveling those rules. And I found a relation to that process in relation to my state of documentation in the States. That was that by making experimental films was a sort of was a way for me to sort of like it was where rule breaking was encouraged.
Mm.
And then so I was drawn to it. And also it's like a format that isn't like doesn't need a budget. And I felt like my ethos in filmmaking has always been attracted to that you don't need a budget to make a film, and it's valued more less for the production value and more for the value of its I don't know, gesture or some sort of artistic merit. Um, so suppose less than a like documentary tradition, even though I think that this is I think I've consumed more experimental films than documentaries. I think that I'm more like in that world, I think, or from that world. But yeah, I realized that this is a documentary.
Yeah.
But I think I don't really see the difference.
Yeah.
It's the same process for me.
Yeah.
Just carrying a camera around.
Yeah, you mentioned, I guess, an interesting point there in that the funding situation, and yeah, how have you been finding that in the last while? I guess maybe since leaving the US, has it been easier to kind of support your practice? I mean, yeah, I noticed you've won a few awards recently with like the Goward Orion Awards, I think it is, for best documentary in the Philippines, and yeah, how is yeah, how's it been going in the last while?
It's been great, to be honest. I think since I left the US, it's just like opened up the world or I don't know, institutional support. Because in the States I was not getting it. I was like getting, I don't know, was excluded from it. I found that the funding structures of the US was just always asking for my green card or citizenship, and it just didn't have it. So I don't know. I found it was very frustrating. Like institutions in the U.S. wanting to promote voices yet excluding, or promote a certain type of content yet excluding a large population of people who don't have the documentation to even tell their own stories. This is one of the main reasons why I left the U.S., because I just didn't see a way to sustain my practice in it. Um, but since then, it's been great, and I actually got some prizes from the U.S., outside of the U.S., and like the Vilcek Award, and yeah, I won the uh, best documentary at, at the Gawad Awards in the Philippines. It's just a trophy, but I don't think there's a cash prize with that. But I'll take
Dang.
the
What's
a
the
huge
scrap
honor.
value?
What else? Yeah. No, it's been great. I think like I've been finding it more liberating to navigate my practice, liberating and confusing to navigate, and sort of it's creating new questions for me outside of the US. Yeah. Because I was
Interesting.
stuck there for so long. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, the last 4 years, I mean, it does feel like the whole, yeah, I mean, there's been so many threats on the kind of DACA, and yeah, whatever existing rules had been enforced by ICE have just been, yeah, turned up to 11. But yeah,
Yeah, it
hopefully
was.
there will be some changes.
Yeah, I found the last 4 years was a huge like acceleration of, I don't know, surveillance, and just they just kind of went in on trying to catch immigrants living and doing their thing, whether from collecting data and seeing how people move around in order to intercept them when they're coming home from work or at their workplaces, or um, but I think the last 4 years was a terrifying and really stressful time in the States as an immigrant, and with just the kind of rhetoric that was happening. It was constantly like I don't know, it's a huge weight on the mind, and and I I left within that time, and then I was just I had to leave. I didn't see it to be livable
Yeah.
there any longer. Like I couldn't exist as an artist, or I felt like it wasn't a, I don't know. But I found through cinema, I had the opportunity and privilege to escape, where I could keep making films, and outside the U.S. it would be supported more. So that was my way out. Yeah, interestingly, is a sort of refuge to leave the U.S. I think. Um, but yeah, I think that sort of brings up an interesting dynamic with cinema and its potential.
Mm.
Um, that the moving image allows this opportunity for travel.
Mm.
And I wrote about this a little bit about um, how you can smuggle yourself across the border through your moving images. And that was sort of one of my, like, I was inspired by this Filipino filmmaker, and he wrote a manifesto, Rox Lee. One of the points of his manifesto is that cinema is your passport. And then so
Cool. What was his name again?
Rox Lee.
Rox Lee.
And he's an experimental filmmaker and animator, sort of coming out of the Mole Fund generation of experimental films in the late 80s and throughout the 90s. Yeah, he made some amazing work, but he made this manifesto for independent filmmakers, and that one point really stuck with me. That cinema is your passport.
Sounds really great. Yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier you're beginning some new projects or working on some new projects. Could you give us a little bit more of a hint as to what you're up to at the moment?
Yeah, so me and my partner Carolina Facilier are making a collaborative film. We filmed this in Acapulco, and
Mm.
Acapulco is sort of the connection point with Manila, via the Spanish galleons, and then so this is a trade point where things were exchanged, mangoes and whatever. Um, there's a there's a the oceanic currents lead from in between these two places, and we created this science fiction of a mythical oceanic creature from the Philippines called a shokoy, and getting swept in this current and ending up in Acapulco, coming out of the water and exploring these touristic ruins, these like empty vacation resorts, which are left there. They're empty. They actually are like abandoned now, and there's been a history of sort of Hollywood tourism in Acapulco, and as film locations for a lot, and getaways for Hollywood stars in the 50s and 60s. So there are these glamorous hotels that are left in disrepair in Acapulco. So we created this fictional island resort, and this creature exploring this island. So that's what we're currently editing and trying to finish right now. But I have another film of mine. It's called Nowhere Near.
Nowhere Near.
We're working on. I guess it's a follow-up to No Data Plan, and it's sort of starts in the States, and then it tracks the sort of the journey back to the Philippines, and then to Mexico, and so interweaving these places, but it's a kind of story of a diary of this exile from the States, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's still taking shape, and I don't want to say too much because it's a mess, but that's what I'm working on.
Great. It has to get messier, I guess, before it gets polished.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, thanks so much, Miko, for taking the time to join us and yeah, giving us a bit more insights into your work.
Thanks, David, for having me, and thanks everyone for catching the film screening.
Great.
Everyone, take care out there. Is that good?